Blessings. For those of you who've just joined us, we're at the end of a meditation retreat, so there's been a question and answer session every evening, so there's still quite a lot of questions to get through, so we'll carry on with that. Dear Ajahn, can you explain the expressions correct but not right and right but not correct in terms of actions? It's a good one. The situations arise sometimes where you maybe have a convention or a rule which is correct, but sometimes you have to set aside the convention so it's correct but not right, or right but not correct. For example, can I think of one? Very occasionally you have to set aside something like, say you have all kinds of safety things nowadays, isn't it? You have rules of safety. You have to wear safety belts in cars and planes, and there's always these various rules, do's and don'ts to do with safety, but then maybe one day somebody's in trouble, so you're supposed to wear a safety belt, and that's the rule, that's correct. But in that situation you have to undo your safety belt to go and help someone who's in desperate need of help at that moment. Maybe you have to set aside the rule and go and help them. So it's incorrect as far as the rule goes, but maybe it's the right thing to do in that moment. Sometimes there's things like that, or sometimes, maybe there's a kilesa that's come up in your mind, and the only way to deal with it is to let it go. There's another part of your mind that's saying, but it's not fair, it's not right. Maybe somebody has, harmed you in some way, insulted you, hurt your feelings, or actually hurt your life in some way. And then you say, I need my reparation. They have to make amends, they have to apologize, they have to do this, they have to do that. And you might say normally that's correct, they have to show that they're sorry, they have to make amends. That's correct. But maybe in that situation the easiest thing is actually just let it go. Move on. Let them go. Let it go in your mind. I'm not sure if that's the best example, but it's one example where the correct thing to do to free yourself from the suffering and that kilesa is actually just let it all go and just drop it. But someone else from the outside might say, but the right thing to do here is that they should do something, maybe there's something they're required to do, but you just drop it, because it's the most peaceful outcome. So it's just pointing out sometimes views are like that. We hold on to a view, but sometimes you can grasp a view too tightly, so you're too narrow. You're not seeing the bigger picture, maybe. So maybe you could say, there's some homeless guy, and you think, we've got to help this homeless guy. He's got no money, no food, no nothing. We should do something for him. And your friend says, yeah, that's right. And then you reach into your pocket to give them some money. You think, this is a good thing, I'm going to help this homeless person. But your friend says, hold on, if you give them money, they're not going to buy food. They're going to buy a bottle of whiskey or something. So don't give them the money. You say, hold on. We're Buddhists. We should be compassionate. We should give them a donation because they're homeless. That's correct. But maybe the thing you want to give is not the right thing in that situation. It's not the best kind of donation. So sometimes it's like that. Or maybe you have a rule, like even monks' rules. Some of the times you have a rule, you're allowed to relax it when you're sick. So, could be something like, normally we don't give Dhamma talks to people lying down. We've got a rule, we're not allowed to do that because it's considered disrespectful. Someone's just lying on the floor, they're not going to really pay much attention or respect the Dhamma. But then if someone is ill, they can't get up, and maybe they need the Dhamma, you go and give them a Dhamma teaching. So you relax that rule because of the situation. So you could say, well, they're lying down, it's not correct to teach them Dhamma. Well, strictly speaking, that's true, but then they're sick and they can't sit up and they need a Dhamma teaching and they want a Dhamma teaching. These kind of sort of subtle situations, aren't they, where sometimes we can be too strict with certain things to the point where it causes some pain to us or pain to others. So there are different things that you have to consider. Like you say, there are more subtle ones than this, like maybe to do with your views on the way of practicing meditation. Maybe you meditate using the breath as your meditation object, and you have the view that the breath is a good meditation object. When I practice mindfulness of breathing, it makes my mind very peaceful, calm. Mindfulness of breathing is good. Mindfulness of breathing is right. Mindfulness of breathing is the best. And maybe that's true for you. But then someone else comes along and it doesn't work for them. They just can't stay with the breath. They can't find the breath. They can't concentrate on it. So you say, you've got to practice mindfulness of breathing. It's the best. But for that person, maybe there's another kind of meditation that actually is more suitable. Maybe recollecting the Buddha might work better for them. So you could say mindfulness of breathing is the best. It's correct, but it's not right for this other person. It's that kind of thing. Sometimes views we have to allow for a little bit of flexibility in the way we look at things, even precepts, meditation techniques, different aspects of the Dhamma practice. Sometimes you have to sort of consider deeply what's the best way to apply it, how does this work? And sometimes in certain situations you need to adjust, sometimes quickly. Like Ajahn Chah was in England teaching meditation, and he said, just concentrate on your meditation object. I think he was teaching mindfulness of breathing. Whatever happens, just concentrate on the breath. Whatever thought comes up, just let it go. Go to the breath. Be mindful of your breath. However, whatever feelings you have in your body, sensations, pain, just go to the breath. And so most people get that. Your aim is to make your mindfulness of your meditation object very strong, your concentration very strong. Generally, that's your goal. And then someone piped up and they said, what if the fire alarm goes off? Should we just watch the breath? And Ajahn Chah said, we're not that stupid. So, of course, it's correct normally to watch the breath and let go of everything else during that exercise, that meditation. But if the fire alarm goes off, maybe it's time to move. So life is like that. It's not always cut and dry, right? What's correct, what's true, what's not true. Sometimes there's these subtle variations, and you need to be a little bit flexible in the way you apply things. Who am I? So this is a question. Dear Luang Por, who am I? I don't know, you didn't sign your name. Would you please provide some guidance to pursue this inquiry? Well, bring us your passport, your driver's license, and I will soon find out who you are. To provide more guidance to pursue this inquiry and not being trapped by craving. 1,000 thanks to you and the Sangha. Well, although we can joke about it, it is actually a good question. It's a very valued one, and many people bring it up in the course of their meditation. Who am I? What am I? Is this me? Is this a self? Is this a person, a being? There's many ways you can sort of look at this, and it's a problem that comes up mostly for Buddhists and people who meditate, because we know that the highest level we've read, we've heard, that on the highest level of insight that really frees your mind from attachment is the insight into anatta. The perception that there's just no self, no solid, lasting self. And that frees the mind from delusion, aversion, ignorance. But then every day we have a body and a mind and a self, and we go around our business, we have a name, we do have driver's license and passports, we interact with the world from a place of being a self, a person with our personality, our thoughts, our feelings, our name, what we call the conventional truth of a self. We use that all the time, and it's very useful, and the Buddha would speak on those terms as well. He would say, well, you have a name, so whether it's a king or a farmer or a man or a woman, they'd have a name, they'd have a life situation, and the Buddha would relate to them on that level. That's normal, isn't it? We relate to people on, we say, the mundane or ordinary level. There's a self. But that works up to the point where your mind starts to experience one-pointedness in samadhi, when the 5 hindrances, which are always filling up our mind, drop away. And the mind goes very quiet and still, with mindfulness present, and the factors of samadhi are present. However deep the samadhi is, however long-lasting it is, it's another question. But when the mind becomes still in samadhi, it just knows in a very pure way, without a lot of thinking and conceptualizing. So then the normal sense of self, names, labels, drop away. Sometimes we say the mind experiences a temporary emptiness, or spaciousness, or just stillness, one-pointedness. And from that point on, in terms of the development of your mind towards Nibbana, then this teaching that there is no self becomes very apparent, and it's a useful tool, a necessary tool to investigate your experience. So then, of course, yes, there's no driver's license or passport that appears once your mind is in samadhi. You say, that's me. Or anything else. There's no signposts, labels. They've gone. You may come out of a state of deep samadhi, and then you start labeling again. You say, oh, I attained jhana, or was it first jhana or fourth jhana? And you'll start describing it to yourself, especially if it's something quite rare and special to you. You may make a big deal out of it. But the words and the description, the conventional truth, start coming afterwards. If you're really one-pointed, that's not happening, is it? Your mind is just knowing in a very pure, unbiased, clean way. So it's not Nibbana, but it's very close to Nibbana. So it's something we should try to experience, we should practice and experience, but from that place of very still, pure awareness, we contemplate and we investigate this question, who am I? So if you want to have, get an example of how the Buddha would teach this, well, probably the best is the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the sutta, the teaching on the characteristic of not self. Ask questions. Who am I? Am I this body? You investigate it. That's why we talk a lot about the 32 parts of the body, the 4 elements that make up this body. The body after death decomposes and goes back to the natural elements. It's impermanent. It's dukkha in the sense it's unstable, won't last forever. It's painful sometimes. And it's not self. You can't stop that happening. So you're constantly investigating the body, investigating, am I the body, is the body me? There's many ways to approach it, but generally that's what you're doing. And you can move on to the other 4 mental khandhas. A human being, we say, is made up of 5 khandhas. So there's feeling khandha, vedana, pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither pleasant nor painful feeling. Am I my feeling? These feelings I experience all through the day, am I really those feelings? Are they me? Are they a self? You might say, well, I own my feeling because I know when I have a painful leg, I feel it. I know it's my leg, my pain. But you're now with your mindfulness and training your mind to really unpack that in a way that's very direct, developing direct knowledge, observing, there's feeling. But that feeling arises due to different causes, conditions. And feeling, painful feeling, was really yours, you just say, stop. No one wants pain. But you can't do that, can you? What we try and do is we fool ourselves, we say, I'll move, and then the pain goes. So we sort of think we're in charge, so we're still there with this sense of self. But that's tricking ourselves, isn't it? If it was really, feeling was really you can just sit there and say, no, I don't need to move, you go. Painful leg, stop. Doesn't happen, does it? Carries on. So you have to investigate the relationship between the feeling and the sense of ownership in your mind, and all the mental proliferation, which is how we know that we are here, because we're thinking. I think, therefore I am. In this case, my pain and what it makes you think about and what it makes you do. There's actually a set of causes and conditions there. There's no ultimate self that can control it, make things happen. You can, from that, whether it's thoughts, feelings, memories, and then out to the world and your relationship to the world, you're starting to see everything goes according to causes and conditions. There's no self in charge, controlling. Sometimes we look for a higher self, the great self, the God, or the gods, or some higher being. And that's a convenient way to describe everything. When things are going well, thank you to the higher being. Things are going badly, why? I used to do that when I was a teenager. When my electric guitar broke down, I said, why? Why now on the night of the concert? Why is it broken? If there is a God, fix this. I'd say things like that, and it didn't work. So in the end, you just have to fix it with tools, and you do it yourself. But we do that. we attribute to a higher force. Some people are the opposite. They say it's all random. There's no one here, no self, it's all random. Anything can happen, doesn't matter what you do. They're not recognizing karma, because karma is a thing, but it's just, there's no person controlling that ultimately. It's cause and effect, dependent on intention and the kind of intention behind the action. So, you could say the whole of the Buddhist practices are answering this question, who am I? And on the conventional level, yes, there's a person, but on the higher level, the deeper level, no, there isn't. But that's something you have to know and see for yourself. It's not a theory just to believe in, or a philosophical standpoint to sort of, that's my view, something to investigate. And if you keep questioning until you can't find anything that is a self, then your mind will go, there's no self, because you can't find a self in anything. So you have to look first, where are you identifying with your experience as a self? Physical, mental, thoughts, ideas, feelings, even samadhi, we say, that's me, my blissful state of meditation, that's me. But it's a sankhara, and sankharas are not self, they arise, they pass away. So everything is to be investigated. Dear Luang Po, as we transition into a new year, what is the Buddha's teaching around energetic influences, i.e., excuse me, around, sounds like energetic influences, e.g. the lunar phase, the law of physics, and the right view towards them. The lunar phase, well, as we're in the, on Saturday, what is it, the new moon or the full moon? Anyone know, monks? This Saturday will be the new moon? This Saturday will be full moon. Yeah, so we're in the waxing phase of the moon at the moment. The full moon is coming up. So Saturday night we should have a nice full moon. You get a very good view of the full moon here. And they often put in the news, they say, super moon, which I always laugh at because every time we get a full moon, it's super moon. But anyway, so that's just a natural phase of the moon, and obviously the moon does have a slight gravitational pull. The Buddha did talk about the moon quite a lot. Main one is it's a simile for the moon, the bright moon behind the clouds, coming out from behind the clouds. He compares that to the arising of wholesome states of mind from out of unwholesome state of mind. A wholesome state of mind brightens your mind, like the moon brightening the sky. And most people, when they look at the moon, a full moon, a bright moon, I mean, if they're like me, most people, they feel good. It's quite a nice kind of inspiring vision. It's led to a lot of spiritual reflections, poetry and stuff. So, on that sense, just the visual sense and the atmosphere around a full moon tends to be quite positive. So of course when the moon disappears, new moon, you don't see it very clearly or not at all. Then maybe there's a sense of, it's dark, and you might go a bit gloomy for a while. Of course people read a lot more into it, magnetic fields and gravitational fields, and different things happen on the full moon and the new moon. maybe, maybe not. This is something for you to investigate, but the law of karma goes beyond or further than that. Just gravitational pull of a moon. You know, if you do good, whether it's new moon or full moon, doesn't matter. If you do something good, it's good. It generates happiness. If you do something evil, hurtful, cruel, it's hurtful, whether there's a full moon or not. So law of karma is not against the lunar phases or laws of physics. There may be certain things you can explain in conjunction with the law of physics, but law of karma is just a law of karma. And the Buddha did talk about different laws. Karma niyama, law is niyama, so karma niyama, utu niyama, like the laws concerning the environment, the weather, systems, heating, cooling, and so on. And biological, jiva, bija niyama, like the way you plant a seed, if there's enough light and moisture and the right kind of soil, that seed is fertile, it will grow into a tree, and it will be a certain kind of bush or tree that it grows into. You plant an acorn, you're not going to get a gum tree. That's just a law of nature, isn't it? So the Buddha would also talk about laws of nature. So sometimes there's something you can see, there's certain corresponding laws and so on, but karma is a very important law to learn about, because it is a law, it's beyond just the conventional reality of what you believe in. You could say, I don't believe in karma, but it's still at work. It's not something that works from belief, it works just cause and effect. You have an angry mental state, you suffer, and you may well say or do something that leads to someone else suffering as well. That's karma. And that's just the way it is for anyone, anywhere. It's not even a Buddhist thing. You could say it's just nature. It's a law of nature. So if you're, say, today is 2 days from the full moon, so the lunar phase, waxing phase, if you get angry today, you're going to suffer. If you get angry next week, after we've passed the full moon, you're still going to suffer. That's how karma works. It's sort of independent of a lot of other natural laws and phenomena. But there may be things that influence. I guess, you could say, I always appreciate the full moon when I walk around the monastery, because I don't need a torch sometimes. It's amazing when you can walk through the forest not needing a torch, because the full moon is so bright. Kind of inspiring, but because it's not perfectly light, you still have to have a bit of care, take care that that tree root on the path is a tree root. Doesn't start wriggling as you get close to it, because that's happened in the middle of the night to a number of monks over the years. It's bright moon, okay, walking through the forest, and more likely than a snake is you step on a trail of ants. So if you're in Thailand, it will be black soldier ants. Sort of da-da-da-da-da, walk through the forest, full moon, very happy, and then the trail of black ants you didn't see, and they come up and they start biting you all together. So if you're not mindful or careful on the full moon, you're still going to get bitten by the ants. So, laws of physics and gravity and things like that certainly do have an influence, but they're only one small factor in the big story of our mind, and particularly our story of whether we're suffering or not. Luang, thank you for the teaching. It seems at the Dhamma discussion we had at lunchtime, the topic of Sotapanna has been raised a lot, or has raised a lot of interest. I was wondering if not aiming at stages of enlightenment, but just focusing on the practice, would it be the right view of practice? It's kind of yes and no. We still have a desire to be free from suffering. I think most people would agree they don't like suffering, don't like pain, don't like a mind that is stressed, suffering, they don't like physical suffering. What did the Buddha say suffering is? Old age, sickness and death, getting what you don't want, not getting what you want, in short, not getting your wishes fulfilled is suffering. Despair, anguish, frustration, all the different kinds of mental stress and suffering is suffering, and nobody likes that or wants that. So in short, we're aiming to get beyond all of that in Buddhist practice. In the course of the practice, sometimes it's useful to have some guidelines or standards, measurements, where you're at and where you're going. Like, I always compare it to like signposts along the route. You're coming to Warburton for the first time from Melbourne. If you have a signpost, it's helpful. Go this way. Otherwise you'll end up in Hillsville. So go turn right at Lilydale, whatever. Signposts can be helpful, but you see the signpost and you carry on driving. The signpost says, you're going in the right direction. Assuming the signpost is right, and you start with faith or belief that the Buddha's signposts are correct. You don't know for sure, but you assume they are. So if the signposts are there, that gives you confidence, you keep going, getting nearer to your goal. It's helpful. But you don't have to pick the signpost up from the side of the road and put it in your car and take it with you. Or you don't have to cling to the signpost and make a big deal of it. You just see it and then you carry on driving until hopefully the next signpost, or you actually reach your goal, the monastery. So the teachings on things like stages of enlightenment are reflections to help you think about what you're letting go, what you may be attached to, what obstacles you may be encountering, what are the coarse obstacles which obviously you encounter first, what are the more subtle ones which come along later. Are there any parts of the Dhamma practice that you can use at every stage? I always found that a kind of a useful one from Ajahn Chah. He always used to say the reflection on impermanence, whether it's the physical body being impermanent, subject to change, or the mind, mental states of samadhi, insight even. Whether it's physical or mental, everything is impermanent other than nibbana. Therefore, you can use that reflection all the way along in your practice to test yourself, whether you're attaching too much or clinging too much to a view or an idea or an experience. Just test it, is it impermanent? Or don't forget that it might be impermanent. It's not sure. And he would say, whether you're just an ordinary newcomer to Buddhism, learning meditation, practicing, hearing the teachings for the first time, well, contemplate this quality of impermanence, or everything is not sure in your experience. It's a very good way to start understanding your mind and the way things work. But you may be someone very mature and very experienced in your Dhamma practice. You may be what we call an anagami, a non-returner. It's still not sure, isn't it? If you do give a label to your practice, you can use that label, but it's not sure. Just remember, it's not sure. So, the Buddha talked about, one way he talked about the way people are bound up with suffering in the world is the 10 fetters, sangyojana. And he gave this description of how abandoning the different fetters, weakening them, abandoning them, you can sort of measure your progress towards enlightenment. So that's what we take. Sotapanna abandons the first 3. Sakadagami, the once returner, weakens the next 2 but doesn't even fully abandon them. The Anagami abandons the first 5 fetters. Only the Arahant abandons all 10 fetters. It's giving you an idea of the practice is abandoning certain things. We're cultivating the path, but then there's things we're abandoning. So at least it's giving you a kind of a structure and a way of reflecting on your experience. Are there certain qualities left in my mind? That might give you an idea of whether your practice is bearing fruit or not. This is the end of the year, 2025. How did your year go? Did you experience a lot more anger this year than previously? 2024, maybe you can't remember it, but just generally speaking, thinking back in your life, are you getting more angry these days than before? Are you getting more afraid, worried than before? Are you getting more attached to things than before, to people, to material things? Are you holding on to your views more tightly than before? Are you arguing about things more than before? People change, so it's just one way of reflecting, isn't it? As through time you can see whether your mental defilements seem to be increasing and then you're suffering more, or decreasing and maybe you're suffering less. Am I more patient than last year or less patient? Sometimes, it is very uncertain, so day by day those kind of reflections maybe you're not going to learn that much. But year by year, maybe you can. And certainly 10 years, 20 years. I've been a monk 41 years, so I can say definitely I'm a bit wiser than when I started. So something's working. I'm a bit more peaceful than when I started. So how peaceful, how wise, these things are hard to measure, but at least that's a sign going in the right direction. But some people, they're getting more upset about life, more fed up, more depressed is a very common one, isn't it? More attached, more angry over time. It happens. So, that's one way to reflect on things. Whether you want to start using these terms, Sotapanna and so on, well, it's certainly, I would say, it's no harm in reading what the Buddha said, the descriptions, because it does give you a sort of an idea where you're going. But like you say, it can become a craving, can't it? I want to be a Sotapanna. Sotapanna or bust. If I don't make Sotapanna this retreat, then I will give up with Ajahn Kalyana. He's out the window. Don't want him anymore. He didn't do the job. He didn't do it for me. Go and find a new teacher. Okay. If they get you to Sotapanna, I'll be very happy. But sometimes we attach too much to the label. We attach so much that we don't see the truth before our eyes. So I want to be a Sotapanna, I've got to be a Sotapanna. So every little thing is this Sotapanna. You have a little bit of peace in your meditation, Sotapanna already. And then it all fades away and it's like, oh, I thought I was a Sotapanna. And it's happened. People have thought they were a Sotapanna before and they give so much value to this label. It's like, now I can tell my friends I'm Sotapanna, it's all good. They give so much power and importance to this label that even if they think or realise that maybe they're not a Sotapanna, they don't want to admit it. They kind of dug themselves into a hole now. So it's like, oh, I told everyone I'm Sotapanna. Oh, I'll just keep it up for now. And everyone else is sort of going, no way they're Sotapanna. They don't keep the precepts, they don't understand the Dhamma, but they're trying to keep it going because they're sort of stuck with it. It happens. And this is an obstacle, obviously. We attach too much to the attainment, and so we're not looking at the thoughts, the feelings, what's coming up day by day, moment by moment. So it's one obstacle to be aware of, labels and just aiming for a label all the time. Ajahn Chah always said, just compare it to planting the tree. You plant a tree, of course you do want a nice big tree that will produce shade and fruit and all the good things that trees can provide. But you don't think too much about that because trees take a while to grow. You focus on making sure your newly planted tree is watered, gets the sun, it's protected from pests and animals, gets fertilized, gets the things it needs. That's your job. Just do your job, giving the supporting conditions for your tree to grow, but the actual growing of the tree, just let it take place. If you trust in the supportive conditions, then you can trust, well, that tree will grow. But if you sit there, you grow harder, faster, quicker, go, 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 tree will get fed up with you. If trees get fed up. It doesn't work, does it? You can't force things, you can't force nature, and that includes your mind. Even the Buddhist path is a kind of nature, isn't it? You can't force it. The very forcing will block your insight, maybe make you very kind of agitated, over-ambitious. Maybe it actually is counterproductive. So Ajahn Chah, our teacher, this is a very kind of standard thing with him. He'd hardly ever talk about levels of samadhi, stages of insight, levels of attainment, enlightenment. Not that he didn't know about them or would never talk about them. He would in certain circles in the right situation. But generally he didn't. Because people get so attached to the labels. Is it jhana? Are they a sotapanna? And it causes conflict. If you start telling, this person's a sotapanna, there'll always be someone who says, I don't believe it, or someone who's jealous, or people become very competitive, or maybe they make a big fuss over someone and ignore everyone else. It tends to lead to not such good results. So he steered away from that and taught more about just the good practice that we have to develop. That's what we're learning, that's what we're developing. The various aspects of the practice, are we developing them? Are they there in our mind, in our daily practice? So there was one nun who got really obsessed with becoming a sotapanna, and she thought she'd done it. Went to see Luang Chah, and he said, oh, well, if you're a sotapanna, you're a little better than a dog. He just made this sort of statement, and she got really angry because she wanted him to say, yes, you're a sotapanna, so she could sort of feel the satisfaction of that. But he would never do that. He'd say things like, if you're asking, that's probably a sign you're still full of doubt, isn't it? Those who ask don't know. And people misunderstand as well. With Ajahn Mahabua, there was one monk who thought he was enlightened, and he went to Luang Mahabua, he wanted confirmation. He's sure of it, sure that Luang Tha would see that he's enlightened and give him the nod, give him some kind of backing that he's enlightened. And Luang Tha, after a while, just said, there's no need for you to stay in our monastery anymore. There's nothing I can teach you. And he went away. And he went away saying, Luang Tha said, there's nothing more he can teach me. Luang Tha is enlightened, therefore I am enlightened. Luang Tha was telling the monks, I can't teach this monk because he's so full of himself, he's not receiving any teachings because he thinks he's enlightened. So, just a simple phrase can be interpreted many ways. The term sotapanna could be the same, couldn't it? So there's a lot of trouble with language, description, confirmations, sotapanna certificates, all of these things. Maybe be a bit circumspect about the whole thing. May the Ajahn Kalyana, the Sangha and the organisers be blessed with happiness and good health, always. Yep. Much appreciated. I feel content with my current samadhi, mindfulness state. I am able to maintain it in meditation. Following your afternoon talk on Vipassana, I would deeply appreciate your guidance on which Kammatthana I should proceed with. Well, if you're already able to maintain a state of samadhi and mindfulness quite well, carry on. That's like the end of term report. Tick, keep up the good work. Carry on. Keep doing what you've been doing. As far as contemplation, well, this afternoon we were talking about how Ajahn Chah would say if you are able to bring your mind to a state of peace, calm, not very distracted, you've learned to do that, then contemplate the body, the first foundation of mindfulness, Kaya Gada Sati. And contemplating the body doesn't mean to say you'll ignore the other three foundations of mindfulness. They all come out of that. Vedana, Citta, Dhamma. But begin with the body, because one of the dangers, one of the obstacles of practicing meditation and samadhi is that we do like the bliss and the comfort and the happiness of states of samadhi. We like it. And it can make us a little bit disinclined to contemplate. Just enjoy it. It's a bit like enjoying your holiday so much that you don't go back to work. You have to go back to work. You have to practice vipassana, and the best place to start that is the body. And many, many monks I know would attain some samadhi and then they'd be told over and over again, contemplate the body. When you're peaceful, contemplate the body. As Ajahn Chah was saying in the talk the other night, contemplate your bones, see the skeleton in this body, see this body as impermanent, unattractive, not self. Use your peaceful state, the mindfulness you've developed to do that, to investigate, because you won't be disturbed when you're peaceful. Normally we can't stay contemplating the body for very long at all. Nobody likes it. It's kind of unpleasant. But when you're peaceful, you can do it better, so do it. Whether you prefer the 32 parts, the 4 elements, the corpse meditations, repulsiveness of food is a very good one. Some monks get enlightened just contemplating food. How when you eat food, it looks good, smells good. As soon as it mixes with your body, saliva and digestion, it changes into something unattractive or even revolting. And then most of it comes out the other end as urine or excrement. Contemplating that over and over again, it's a deeper contemplation than just food and the impermanence of food. It's life itself is like that. We spend our whole life earning money to buy food, to eat food, to put it out again. That's life, if you want to sum it up, for human beings or any form of life in the world. So there's different approaches and different aspects to body contemplation, but that's how to develop wisdom. And when your mindfulness is strong and your mind is peaceful, you can do it better. Dear Luang Po, may I ask how you relate to suffering when you're on the path? I imagine as one has stronger equanimity, one would be less driven by fear of suffering and therefore maybe less attached to liberation from suffering. I'm also curious if you have tested other practice methods from other Buddhist traditions or schools on your journey. If so, would you be happy to share your experiences with them? What's your view on integration methods from different traditions to tailor to one's practice needs? Well, you could say it's one of the benefits, but also one of the curses of the modern era is that we're exposed to so much information on every tradition, every kind of Buddhism, every teacher. So sometimes that leads to a bit of confusion or dabbling, just try this, try that. Not sure what to believe, what to try. That's quite common. So if you do have a living teacher who you feel you can trust. Just keep following their guidelines is a good starting point. But of course, if there's a particular practice, something you've read, something you've maybe done a retreat on that worked for you, well, that's also a very good indicator. Maybe there's something that can help you there. And so some meditators will basically follow Theravada, but they may have a little bit of Mahayana teaching or Zen that they've used before that works. If it works, okay. Ajahn Chah said, you have a fruit bowl on your kitchen table. There are many fruits in the bowl, many different types, and they're all fruit, but they're different. And you can sometimes find different techniques within different traditions if it works for you. Maybe you have an affinity with it. And different teachers can put you onto different things, maybe. So that's okay to experiment. I mean, when I was a younger monk, I read a lot Mahayana, Zen, Theravada, but I was spoiled in the sense I discovered Ajahn Chah first. For me, it was like, good enough. You just don't need anything else. Ajahn Chah was quite good at explaining other traditions, so you can even see you can read about his views and explanations, but I always appreciate other traditions. Like the very first time I went to India, went to the Bodhi tree, we'd been travelling all day, absolutely exhausted. There's like 20 monks and a whole group of lay people, and all the monks were young and enthusiastic. We said, we're going to stay up all night, worship the Buddha through meditation all night, even though we were exhausted. Finally arrive. And in those days it was very quiet. There was no one there, there was no fence around the Bodhi tree. You could just go up and sit right next to it. Quite pleasant. So very quiet, secluded. They still had the mosquitoes, for those of you who know, but it was a very good atmosphere. But there was just one group, there's one Zen monk, Japanese Zen monk, with his 3 followers sitting there. They arrived at the same time and sat down. And then there was us, our group. And this Zen monk just got into his position, and he didn't move for another 12 hours. Like, whoa, the real thing. Very inspiring. And he was obviously inspired to be at the foot of the Bodhi tree, where the Buddha was enlightened. As far as I could see, he didn't, he's just sitting on a tiny little thin mat on the cold marble floor. It's like old marble slabs there. And he just sat the whole night without moving. He had no protection from the mosquitoes as far as I could see. I don't know, maybe he had got repellent on, I don't know. But he just did his thing. Zen is very endure, whatever arises, ceases, just keep coming back to, I assume he had a koan, he often have a phrase there, contemplating. He may have been doing breath meditation, I don't know, but he didn't move for the whole night. So he was very inspiring. And I know a few other Zen monks, so I've always found that tradition. If the practitioner is well developed, they meditate very well. When Chinese Zen monks came to Bangkok with the Buddha's tooth relic that's normally kept near Beijing, they had a 24-hour-a-day bodyguard of monks meditating next to the tooth relic. Hundreds of thousands of people from all over Thailand went to pay respects to the tooth relic. But the Chinese monks sit around, there's always 4 monks around it all day, all night, because it's a valuable thing. And they just meditated. They're very tough. So Chinese Zen tradition obviously has some good meditators. And in terms of wisdom teachings, most traditions will have some good wisdom teachings, suttas, Diamond Sutta, Heart Sutta, different things. I always find them inspiring. But in terms of a system of training, I've always found Ajahn Chah is good enough. The Vinaya of the monks, the way of practice, living in the forest, meditating, mindfulness, contemplating, the sort of things we talk about. For me, that was always good enough. And I've never been that tempted to go and sort of look for other things. But I appreciate there are other traditions, and certainly Ajahn Chah isn't the only enlightened teacher in the world. There are others in Thailand and in other countries. For me, when I was a young monk, that was one of the nice things about being in Thailand, is you practice with Ajahn Chah, learn how to do it as best you can, and that was good. And then you start to hear about this teacher and that teacher, and you go off and you visit them. And quite often you notice similarities between different meditation masters, talk about the same things, present themselves in the same sort of way. They're quite peaceful, restrained, wise, mindful, etc. But they'd always have slightly different kind of approach, maybe. But they're all over the place. One foreign visitor came to the monastery when I was a young monk and said, "I've heard there's an arahant under every tree in Thailand." And he was being sarcastic, and I said, "No, it's true." Because there were so many, I couldn't even remember all their names. And sometimes we were lucky to go and visit them. So many good monks practicing, good nuns as well. So there are many good teachers around. It's up to us to go and find them and then follow them. You know, the digital age now, everyone just wants to sit on their comfy chair and look at the screen and, you know, oh, I'm going to be doing Zen tonight. Oh, here's a Mahayana teacher, looks good, okay. They're just sitting on their big comfy chair, not really doing very much. You could say it's, you know, increasing their faith maybe, but Buddhism is about practice. You have to get out there, do retreats, go and stay with teachers, keep precepts, meditate, do the dana, you know, whatever you can, you need to do it, get out there and do it. It's not something to just kind of sit and worship from afar. That doesn't go very far in your mind. It won't change your mind very much. Yeah, Luang Po, thank you for everything. You're thanking me for those painful legs, are you? You're thanking me for all the moments of frustration during the retreat. Thank you for the teamwork at this temple, especially Kun Jeff. Is Jeff here somewhere? He's there at the front, yep. So tonight is the night we thank Jeff for doing all the organising. Kun Seong as well, although I don't think he's here. Venerable Dhammawitiko for all doing all the email, receiving all the applications. He had to put up with everyone thinking he was me. But of course, many of you volunteered and helped as well. That's how monasteries work. You have many people, some people just do a little thing, some do a lot, some do many repeated acts of kindness and helpfulness. And that's how a monastery is built, how it's run, and how a retreat is run. You know, on the food table there's many different sponsors of each dish of food. Many people clean the toilets, many people take the rubbish out. You know, there's so many things people do, everyone helps. But Jeffrey has been team leader, coordinator, so we give our anumodana to him. Question, as I clearing around the temple, how to manage the spider webs and ants when I have to wipe things away? Is it bad karma? Well, it is if you kill them. Don't kill them. With ants, we have those soft brooms. Sometimes you can gently sweep the ants away while you're sweeping the floor. Cobwebs, you can gently take them down, and the spider usually runs to the side, and then you take the spider web down with your hand or a stick. You do the best you can, but don't kill them, not intentionally. We're in the forest, so you're going to get spiders, webs, ants, little things, bigger things. Maybe having to wipe kangaroo poo off the veranda. Well, the worst one is the kangaroo tail marks when they come in onto the veranda to get away from the sun and the rain. Their tails all leave these kind of stripy, muddy lines. You have to clean them up. But just don't deliberately harm the animals. You try to work around them, with them. That's the idea. I also have a beehive at home. I worry that if I get rid of them, it will be bad karma. We'll try some of the preventative or disruptive methods that don't kill them, but just kind of make them uncomfortable. We used to, in Thailand, they come and set up in our kutis, so we always get too much incense offered, so we take a whole pack of incense and light it up, make the place so smoky that the bees sometimes flew away. Sometimes they just fly out, and then the incense dies down, and then they just fly back in again. You just do what you can. And as we were discussing earlier, sometimes meditation can work. You meditate every day, spread metta. Bees, I hope you're well, but can you move away? Ants, I wish you well, but can you move away? You just keep spreading metta to them. Sometimes it seems to work. It's hard to prove, isn't it? You can't prove whether it's the power of your metta or there's some other force at work, some other condition has changed. But if you keep the metta in your mind, then you tend to find solutions that don't kill. That's my experience. And whatever works, if you can't explain why the bees have flown away, it doesn't matter as long as they've flown away. That's what your aim is. The last question of this retreat. Deepest gratitude for sharing your wisdom. I am surprised by the amount and variety of negative thoughts and feelings that arise during the retreat. Why does this occur? How do we respond? Well, I think what most people find is those negative thoughts and feelings are there all the time. It's just you're not fully witnessing them. One of the practices, or the results of the practice as you meditate, is you start to witness everything. It starts coming up. We say coming up, because actually you're going down to see it, kind of thing. You're noticing what's there. Most of the time we're so busy, and we love to find busyness and activities in our life that we don't notice what's going on in our mind. We're just going from one activity to the next. Go shopping, go to work, go to see my friend, go eat food, wash the clothes, do this, do that. If there's nothing outside to do, scroll, find stuff online. We fill our mind up with things to do. So you're never noticing all these little micro moments of negativity, anger, discomfort, discontent. But they're there. But when you're in a monastery, on a retreat, the outlets are much less. If you're doing it properly, you put your phone away, you're not talking, you're not shopping, you're not doing very much other than watching your mind. So then you notice it all. And you sit down in the hall, and it's like this restless, discontented mind is just looking for the next thing to complain about. So you sit there, and the most innocent little thing becomes a big deal. Sitting there, why is that guy making so much noise? That guy is maybe just sitting down. Just come into the hall and sit down. Oh, that's so noisy. Or, why doesn't someone close the window? Why doesn't someone open the window? Flies. Why are there so many flies? Why does the fly come in? Why is the fly bothering me and not anyone else? Your mind will look for something to complain about or be negative about, and the most ordinary thing it will do, if there's nothing else, that will become the source of your negativity. But it's just your bad habit that you've picked up along the way, basically since you were a baby. When you're a baby you go, when you're an adult you just think it. you're going like a baby, but it's in your mouth, in your mind, and now it's just like, why this, why that? They shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. And you're noticing it because you're meditating. So that's why we say do a lot of metta meditation. Begin the retreat wishing everybody well. If you do that sincerely every morning, may everyone in this room be well, peaceful, may everyone progress in their meditation, may everyone be healthy, happy, enlightened. Then, 10 minutes later, if you're going, why is that guy making so much noise and all that? It's like, oh, hold on, this is a contradiction. I was just wishing everyone well, now I'm wishing they were dead. Maybe. It's a contradiction. So you could check yourself and say, hold on, where did this intention come from? And you realize you've accumulated a lot of negativity in your life. Mostly it'll be at work, you're quietly doing your work, hating your co-worker. You're driving your car, hating the other drivers. You're going home and hating your partner. Most of it's inside, and most of it we know, we're not going to act on it, it's not that important, it's just the grumbling, mumbling mind. But now you're seeing it. So you actually have a chance to purify your mind from a lot of this stuff, here, right now. And probably for the first period when you go home, you're the new improved you. Okay, go home, the grumbling has quietened down. You're just happy to be home, got your bed again, no tent, got your 3 meals a day, got all the things you've been missing, so you've got that happiness. But you also are not grumbling so much because you've learned to let go of a lot of it. But unfortunately, if you're not careful, it gradually comes back up again. And after your New Year break, you go back to work and you're hating your co-worker and you're hating the traffic and you're hating this and hating that. It'll come back. But this is what we're working with. Unwholesome states of mind are to be abandoned. If they come up 100 times, abandon them 100 times. 1,000 times, abandon them 1,000 times. Sooner or later they'll run out of steam if you do it enough. That's what the Buddha said, isn't it? He said, you abandon the unwholesome, cultivate the wholesome, purify your mind. Sooner or later that comes to fruition and the unwholesome doesn't arise anymore. Usually it's in stages, as we were describing earlier. You let go of the coarse things first. So you have the thought to throttle your co-worker, but you don't act on it, it's just a thought. Then after a while it's just, you're grumbling, you don't think of throttling them, you're just a bit grumbling. Then after a while, maybe you actually change, you start feeling sorry for your co-worker. No longer hating them, you just feel sorry for them and you want to help them. Your mind changes from maybe starting point of being grumbling, angry, to grudgingly tolerant, to actually feeling sympathy, compassion, maybe trying to help. That's the evolution of the mind, maybe through the practice. That may take time, but that's the sort of thing we experience. We become more content, so if we don't quite get what we want, we're not going to make a big fuss, because we know it doesn't matter so much. We're more patient with the conditions, and when you're tired, you're more patient with yourself, with other people. Through the practice, you see your mind change, and these negative states start to drop away, they come up less, and you manage them better. And the more positive, wholesome states come up more often and help you and bring you happiness, hopefully. And you see a change taking place. That's my experience, and I think many others are the same. There's many people, they say, they come to the monastery the first time or the first period, full of doubts, full of stress, don't have much self-discipline, don't understand the Dhamma, and some people don't last, they go away again. But some people stay and then they change. They give up bad habits, the way they think changes. They start to respect and maybe love the Buddha and the teachings of the Buddha. Things change over time. Then you don't want to go back to your old ways. Like, if any of you used to drink on New Year's Eve, like I've had a few drunken New Year's Eves, a long time ago now, I wouldn't want to go back to that. Would you? Do you want to go back to coarse, wholesome, unwholesome states of mind that bring you stress, suffering, regret, conflict with others, problems? Would you want to go back to that? I don't think so. Once you understand, you want to maintain and even improve. So New Year's Eve, just sitting quietly meditating, it doesn't sound exciting, but it's actually quite desirable once you incline towards wholesome states of mind. It actually sounds quite an enjoyable New Year's Eve. And things that you may formerly have done and enjoyed, so to speak, party, food, drink, socializing, whatever, less and less attractive, and maybe totally unattractive now. I remember one New Year's Eve I got caught in Bangkok. I was supposed to be going back to Wat Map Jan, and it was New Year's Eve, and all the tour buses, the buses were full. I couldn't get a bus, so I had to stay at a layperson's house with nothing to do but just meditate. And then the house next door had their New Year's Eve party with lots of drinking and loud music, the loudest music. So I couldn't even sleep if I wanted to. So that year there was a famous Thai pop star, the Thais will know, it's called Aris Man. Anyone know Aris Man? I got to know all of Aris Man's hits because they just played the same songs over and over again from 7 p.m. till 6 a.m. I'm so glad I'm a monk. If you want to keep someone a monk who's thinking of disrobing, just play them the current pop music of the era over and over again while people drunkenly scream and dance and sing, and that monk will not want to go home. Well, that was my experience anyway. So we're practicing to change the mind. We call it enlightening or awakening. To awaken to suffering, its cause, and then change. It's not like you just know things but don't do anything. You have to do things as well. You have to let go, and that takes effort, takes some cleverness. We say cleverness of mind. You have to see what you need to let go of and how to do it. You have to learn how to do that. And that's the practice. And after a while you may get it. Once you got it, then you know, let it go. Maybe someone does something that annoys you, but you know that annoyance is really your problem, it's your thought, your feeling. Why hold on to a feeling of annoyance and a grudge? Let it go. Compassion is better than anger. You get to learn that. So maybe you're tempted to be angry with someone, but you think, no, compassion is better. It's the more correct response. Generosity, compassion, kindness, and of course mindfulness. Mindfulness is better than confusion. As you become more mindful, you also notice how confused you used to be. And you go, I don't want to be confused anymore, I want to be mindful, so you want to practice more. So that's the questions for this retreat. And the time is about 9:35. So tonight is New Year's Eve, so we are having a New Year's Eve celebration, if that's the word, in a very Buddhist monastic way. So in a moment we'll pay respects to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and then maybe have a break. I'm sure some of you need toilet or refreshments. And then we'll be meditating till about 11:30, and we'll be chanting parittas then. You're welcome to come and join in the parittas, and giving a New Year's blessing to you all as we bring in the new year. And then more meditation until 4 a.m. And we'll finish about 5 a.m. And then Kun Wit will be making lots of merit by offering breakfast to everyone. So we'll now pay respects to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha.